Hello friends, my name is Hadassah Treu. I'm an award-winning Christian author, blogger and poet. And today I want to talk about perhaps one sensitive topic, and this is the topic of being angry at God. So I want to ask you today a question and then also to share my story and my personal experience with this topic. So the question is, are you angry at God? Perhaps as a good Christian, you are taught or you think that it's not possible and you are not allowed to feel any anger or disappointment with God. But I want to assure you that this is simply not true. Of course, from time to time, we can feel anger and disappointment with God, but also it is possible to develop deeply seated anger and disappointment in the dark rooms of our hearts, and that we are not even aware about this. And this is exactly what happened to me. And this happened in the years when I was struggling with infertility, anxiety disorder, and also having marital problems. And you can imagine that my circumstances were not at all developing according to my hopes and wishes and dreams. And perhaps somehow along the way, anger and disappointment with God took hold of my heart, and I was not aware of that because I was having, according to myself, a good fellowship and connection with the Lord. I was spending a lot of time studying His Word, meditating on His Word, praying, fasting, and I was not aware of such things. But what I learned actually is that God's highest priority is always our hearts and our fellowship with Him. He is working exactly in the right time to uncover and to shed light on the barriers and on the things on our hearts that are preventing us from having a close relationship with Him and fellowship with Him. And in my case, this was this anger with Him. So I was praying for a miracle, but instead God led me to a path of greater freedom in Christ and greater spiritual maturity. So perhaps you will find this also true in your life when you think about it. So how the whole journey to finding freedom from anger with God started? It started in a conversation with a friend. And this friend mentioned to me one book which I highly recommend and which I found extremely helpful. And this book is called Uprooting Anger by Robert D. Jones. And I started going through this book. It took me a month. And I let the insights and truths from this book change me, transform me, change my thinking, challenge my thinking on the first place. And then I found out that these insights and these truths actually were removing a great deal of my self-centeredness, which I was not even aware about. So the first step, which I found out is really very helpful, is to acknowledge that you are angry with God, to realize that you have such feelings and such complex emotions. It was very helpful, the definition which the author had in this book for being angry with God. This definition is that when we are angry with God, we accuse Him of not doing what we want according to our hopes, wishes and expectations. So we want what we want when we want it, and when God does not deliver, we judge Him. So in my case, this was my unfulfilled desire for a child, because in my opinion, I was a devoted follower of Christ. I followed Him many years. I prayed for many years for a child. I was doing everything possible together with my husband, but nothing happened. And in the meanwhile, I was seeing around me people who were not so devoted followers of Christ, who were getting their wishes granted for children or for other things as well. And this whole thing seemed unfair to me. But when I read actually this definition in the book, it really became clear to me that I was angry and offended at God, and I was harboring some bitter mixture of offense, pain, and disappointment in my heart. And what was the way out? The way out was, as I said, to acknowledge this, to be aware, to recognize and to express these feelings, and then to let go of these feelings, of course, and to get back on the road of surrender and humility, because this is the only way that leads back to what is true and to authentic and good connection with God. So it was really a painful process actually of bending in His direction and of accepting His will and His sovereign plans and purposes in my life, which I actually did. But acceptance was really crucial. And it's really very important to know and to realize that actually it's not about us. It's not about our ways, it's not about our desires, it's not about our will, it's really about His will, and it's about Him. And here is where our focus and our priority must lie. So surrendering to God was a huge step again in this process of finding freedom from the anger and disappointment. But I also found out that the pain still remained. So what I was supposed to do, and then God led me to another key spiritual discipline, which I obviously neglected. And this is a key spiritual discipline for every believer, and this is the discipline of lament. This is a holy complaint, a kind of prayer where we are free to express all our raw and painful feelings, but we do this in the framework of our faith and trust of God. So it is really a balance between expressing our pain, but still keeping our faith and trust in God. And perhaps it will help you if you can imagine this picture, that you do this, you express yourself in the presence of your closest person, in the presence of your best friend. And God is all this to us, and amazingly even more, because I found out He is the best psychotherapist and also psychotherapist, and also the best comforter in the world. And this really makes lamenting actually easier to express our authentic and true selves in His presence. This is an invitation to be ourselves and to leave all the masks down and show what is really inside us without fear of getting judged or misunderstood or whatever. So it was finally for me time to get my feelings out in the right form and in the right framework, and I did this. And actually I need to say God heard me, God heard my cry, God freed me, God healed me and soothed my soul. And I hope very much that my story of finding freedom from anger at God is encouraging and helpful for you, and perhaps you can also think about yourself and ask yourself this question: are there things about which you are angry at God? Are you harboring feelings of anger? And to take steps to acknowledge this, to surrender again to God, to humble yourself and to lament your pain. I hope you found this video helpful, and I would be very happy if you like it, share it, and comment on it. Thanks a lot for watching. Till next time.